I'm being facetious. They have actually updated the game icon to be very, shall we say, bright and colourful. But they've also, for some reason, used the tutorial map, which is a map that you only use once, I guess to entice new players? I don't know. They have also updated the icon for Tower Defense Simulator to be a scout looking down the tunnel for tutorial mode. Okay, very cool. So, this update does come with a new code, interestingly, to celebrate the fact that Tower Defense Simulator recently hit 4 billion visits. So the code is literally just F4B visits. Just redeem that and you get 1 premium crate. Yeah, for the 1 billion visit code, we got a deluxe crate, but no, a premium crate. Yeah, let me just add it to the, how many premium crates did I have previously? 76 previous premium crates. Yes, it's like pouring water into the ocean. Thank you, developers. Very cool. So before this update was released, Star Wars on the progress feed in the Tower Defense Simulator Discord said that it would be a small update day today, which means that we wouldn't expect any new features. So the skills update, yeah, probably not this update. However, me and Menton have noticed the fact that a lot of these bugs on the TDS public bug report thing has actually been addressed by the developers, or said they needed more information, which, by the way, fun fact, I can actually edit this because I am a tester, so we'll just need to test to see if these bugs have actually been fixed in Tower Defense Simulator. Next, they've seemingly nerfed the Swarmer. Now, this has been anticipated for a while now, because the developers and testers have said that the Swarmer is probably a little bit too powerful due to issues with testing at the very last stage. However, the changes aren't too bad, at least initially. So the costs change. So at level 2, the cost has increased from 500 to 600, an increase of $100. At level 3, it's increased from 1,500 to 2,000. So a total cost increase at this level by $600. At level 4, the upgrade cost has increased from 3,000 to 5,000. So up until this point, it is an increase of $2,600. And finally, at level 5, the upgrade cost has increased from 6,000 to 9,500, which is, at this level, is an increase of 3,500, and overall is an increase of 6,100. Additionally, the level 5 in particular has had some specific changes to it. So the B damage has decreased from 4 to 3. However, the tick rate has actually decreased as well from 0.75 to 0.5. Previously, this meant that the DPS for 1B at level 5 was 5.33, whereas now, actually, the DPS is now 6. So on the surface, individually, per B, it seems as if the damage for the Bs has actually increased, or the DPS. However, do bear in mind that it does have a duration. Well, why has the duration got to do with anything? Like, the DPS of the Swarmer at level 5 technically has increased. However, there has been a change to the maximum stats, which isn't actually displayed here. So, there is now a new statistic which changes between levels for each Swarmer, because previously, there used to be a hard limit of 150 B stacks per tower, just for all levels. However, this has now changed. So at level 0, the maximum amount of B stacks per tower is 5. At level 1, it is 10. At level 2, it's 15. Level 3 is 20. Level 4 is 25. And level 5, it is 30. Now, bear in mind, previously, it used to be 150, which means at level 5, technically speaking, the Swarmer can stack 5 times less compared to what it did previously. However, yes, it has actually got a DPS increase, which it doesn't mitigate it entirely. In fact, it doesn't mitigate it near enough. The Swarmer itself has gotten 5 times less powerful against bosses. However, its DPS has actually increased, so is it really that much? I mean, it's the B debuff that's increased, not the statistics, like the damage itself, the non-B statistic damage has not increased. But then when you couple it with the cost increases, yes, the Swarmer has gotten nerfed, but not as badly as some people would have thought. Knowing the community, I'd assume that people are saying that this is doomsday for the Swarmer, saying that this is now the worst tower ever. Not entirely sure if that's the case, given the fact that Swarmer did well against other enemies, not just bosses, but this seems to be specifically targeted towards bosses, given the fact that at level 5, it has been nerfed 5 times. I mean, technically at level 0, it's been nerfed by 30-ish, so that does seem to be the case where it's gotten universally worse. However, I doubt many people are getting the max stings per tower, though I wonder if the maximum stings, there's still a hard limit of 500 on a tower, so we would need to get a tower that doesn't actually, or an enemy, sorry, that doesn't actually have any stun ability. The only problem is I can't really think of it. Actually, the Void Reaver, yes. Now, I assume that enemies still have a hard stack limit of 5,000. The only problem is, it's going to be extremely difficult to actually reach this hard stack limit, given the fact that you need, like, I don't know how many swarmers at this point, and with a 40 troop limit, you only get 1,200. So what, to get the maximum amount of B stacks of 5,000, yeah, you'll need 167 swarmers. Theoretically possible, however, I don't think anyone outside of sandbox mode is getting this theoretical limit. I can't lie. Right, okay, so that's 167 swarmers. Now, spawning in the Void Reaver, does it get... Wait, no, they've changed it, have they? So the hard stack limit is now 1,500. Okay, so they've also nerfed the hard stack limit if you have like a billion towers now to 1,500. Okay. Although, to be fair, again, with 40 swarmers, you still don't hit this max limit. I think you need 50 towers, 50 swarmers to hit this max limit. So, I mean, yes, it's a nerf, but I doubt anyone outside of sandbox mode was hitting 5,000 stacks. And 1,500 stacks, with this new limit anyways, is a kind of big deal to reach anyway. Next, we have a whole load of bug fixes. So, units now spawned by towers contribute to damage quests. Yes, this was an issue since the dawn of time with damage quests, where units, so for something like the biologist tower, didn't have its damage contribute towards damage quests. So that's now been fixed. Unit collisions not adding towards towers' total damage, same with regular units firing. So that's when, say, for example, the military base, when its units collided with an enemy, that damage did not contribute to the total damage caused by that unit. So, for example, the Crook boss, when its units collided with an enemy, the collision damage, technically it did damage it, but it wasn't contributing towards the total damage. This has now been fixed. Well, I say fixed. I guess it was a feature that was never implemented. Next, elf camp animation has been fixed. I'll need to do a further video on that. Slasher bleed stacking not working. So there was an issue where if there were more than 2 slasher towers, it didn't actually stack its bleeding. This has now been fixed. I believe that was a thing with like the Swarmer when it was first added. Baseball mortar projectile not showing. Yeah, that was an issue with that. Brute, Fallen Sword Master, and Mortal Warlord are not duplicated on all paths anymore, so there was an issue where these bosses, they would be duplicated on all paths, modifier maps. So, for example, Infernal Abyss, there are 3 of those that would appear. They're not meant to. On all paths, major bosses are not meant to be duplicated. Well, ones that are meant to be permanent anyway, at least. The Fallen Sword Master, Brute, Mortal Warlord, yeah, I don't know about, say, temporary bosses. So, for example, the Giant Skeleton, when that first spawns in, that is a boss. I still think that's duplicated on Badlands 2. I'm not sure. We'll have to check. Fixed the level 3 classic Humvee skin not working. I don't know. I think that's something to do with shooting animation not working. Fix legacy freeze enemies when performing targeted attacks. Okay. Fix Galactic Commander when first time placed down having no animations. Fix some tower sounds not being attached to the tower's volume setting. And fix scary coffin emote. It's spawning you into the void. Self-explanatory. Menton is testing out all the bugs to see if they actually do work. And finally, there are new maps that have been added. Retrozone and Lighthouse. Sorry, Lighthouse. It's like trying to say Housemaster or something. Like, you want to spell it cool, and you go Hoose. Okay, fair enough. So, firstly, Loot Hoose. It looks like, what is it? Ruby Escort and Rex Battlefield 2, just because it looks red and dark. So, yes, it looks like this. It's a long map. Apparently, it's normal. I think it's... I can't lie. I think it'll be easy. It is giving Ruby Escort vibes with the boat and the water, but fair enough. Is this like the 3rd lighthouse map that's been added to Tower Defense Simulator? There's been a few lighthouse maps that have been added recently. Now, I do wonder, because Retrozone is a rework, I wonder if they have kept the legacy Retrozone in community maps, because that's what they did to Simplicity, and that's what they did to Space City. And yes, they have. They have actually kept around legacy Retrozone. Very cool. Are these the usernames of the people that made this? Fair enough. So the new Retrozone is hard, while the legacy Retrozone is normal. You can see that they have like similar-ish vibes. I think the sandbox, the skybox, is the same between the 2 maps. And the path layout, oh, there's 2 parts. Okay, big news. There are 2 paths to the new Retrozone map, and I think for the first time, no, Winter Stronghold is another map where the paths do not actually meet, and they actually get pretty close to each other, but they don't meet. Also, Doomspire map reference, very cool. Less references in this one, but I expect that to be the case because developers are removing Easter eggs from maps. Luckily, however, there is no all-pass modifier on... Oh, there is an all-pass... forget what I said. There is an all-pass modifier to the new Retrozone map. The paths themselves, they look quite short. So imagine, right, if you could actually, if it's been added to hardcore mode, which I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think that's the case. Hopefully that's not the case. And no, it's not the case. Legacy Retro Zone probably won't work. Yes, Legacy Retro Zone does not work in hardcore mode.